Information about the world of running, inspiration to fuel passion and excellence, and ideas for making connections and finding community. You're listening to A to Z Running. Hi friends, welcome to the A to Z Running podcast where we help runners thrive. I'm Andi.
And I'm Zach, and head to AtoZrunning.com, look for the word follow, and on YouTube, subscribe so that you can know about everything we have in store for you in 2021. So much coming up. And to get a little bit of a feel for what that experience is like, this episode in show for you today is a recap of 2020 like you have never experienced. So that insane story of 2020 that we're all kind of hoping to forget at some point soon, we're going to tell it through the runner's experience.
Which was good.
Which was incredible.
There was a lot of amazing things that happened in 2020. And if you're running right now, this is going to put a pep in your step. Try not to run too fast if you're having an easy day.
Absolutely that. And then we're going to give you a little bit of a snapshot of what's coming at the end of the show today.
Very good. Well, a few of you reached out saying that you were happy to hear from Nate Martin last week. So Nathan Martin ran 2:11:05 at the Marathon Distance Project. To give you some perspective, that is an Olympic gold standard time in the marathon.
World Olympic qualifying time. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, incredible. He's super fast. Anyway, he agreed to come on the podcast. So you won't hear from him this week, but in a few weeks, you're going to get to hear a whole episode with Nate Martin as our interviewee.
Another reason why you must subscribe and follow, because you don't want to miss it when these things happen, because these things are happening all the time. That's what we do here at A to Z Running.
Yeah, so exciting stuff. We do have a featured product this week.
Naturally.
Yes. You know, we love our recovery products here.
Anyone want to just take a random guess if this vibrates or not? Yeah, you guessed correctly.
It does.
Of course it does, because that's the latest and greatest cool thing.
And I'm particularly excited about this because this is my favorite recovery on the go product. So this is the Orb, for those of you who don't see what I'm holding up. The Orb Activate by ProTech. I have the Orb Extreme, the mini, and I take that with me on the go all the time, like traveling. So this now has upped its game, and I'm able to get to that piriformis and my upper quad and my glutes, high hamstring, all those problem areas that I have. This is the product I go to for that, and now just does a little bit better with the activation.
Rock solid. So we have found that with all of these kinds of things, they always get just a little bit better, you know, every time. And so the Orb was a great thing, but now that it shakes and shimmies, it is that much better of a thing, and it's just as compact, just as mobile, you know, throw it in the track bag kind of thing, or the diaper bag if you're in that stage of life, which we have been very recently. It's good stuff.
Very good. So thank you, ProTech, for creating that great product and for helping us stay healthy. And now, on to our main topic, which is also the world of running. We won't dwell on our year personally, but some of you have said, like, who the heck are you? Andi and Zach, what are you doing?
We're Andi and Zach, so if you're asking that question, you clearly have not paid any attention to anything.
You're more than our names, Zach Ripley.
Barely.
So I ran in the Olympic trials this year in the marathon, and that was my single and only race of 2020. So there is my recap. It is brief.
That's it. That's the whole recap. But that's the exciting times, though.
Yeah.
Certainly, you know, for our career experiences, that, you know, for Andi, that's kind of marks the highlight.
Yeah. And for me, it was a high success because I was able to compete in it, and I wasn't injured. That was that my PT can tell you that it was a delicate thing to get me there and to have me finish that race. And I guess moving forward, I continue to progress to try to stay injury free. So that means, so exciting in this recap, guys, I started doing more mobility, and you can obviously tell by how much I talk about it, I've upped my recovery game. So
it helps when we have guests on the podcast so often who talk about the importance of things like strength and mobility work and then give us specific examples. And then it's like, if we're sharing that with all of you and we're not doing it ourselves, we we don't look so great.
So Zach has always been really good at all that stuff, but I have had to up my game out of necessity, but also because I do want to get better and I'm learning more and more.
Absolutely. I have nothing to say about 2020 for my running because nothing happened, except that I was running, just not in anything official, ever. However, I did start working with a new coach. So for the first time in it ever working with someone internationally, a professional coach internationally, Barry McGee. And many of you have followed that a bit as I've just given occasional updates. But it's been an experience where I've really been able to learn and grow in ways as a runner and as a coach that I wouldn't have without being able to connect with him. And so this has been incredible. And, when you can learn from someone who's 87 years old and been involved in the sport since basically it was cool, he might have helped make it cool, in fact. So, yes, that has been exciting. And hopefully I will actually get to prove his training in competition sometime eventually in the next 10 years. ...
TBD.
But we have so much more exciting things to talk about, like what is going on throughout 2020 in running, because it was a year for whatever the thing is that people say when they end that phrase and sentence. The record books, a year for the whatever
the year for
that.
the record books. That's a good one.
So we're going to tell this to you chronologically because it only makes sense given how 2020 unfolded. And that being the case, we have to begin in January of 2020.
We're so naive then.
Naive. A month that saw new phrases like novel coronavirus circulating the interwebs with random speculation and otherwise shrugs and eye rolls, only to find out soon enough that it was a whole lot more than shrugs and eye rolls.
Yeah.
But at the very least, running was happening and happening at the highest of levels. To note simply one thing, Ronix Kipruto of Kenya ran a new world record 10K on the roads. Actually, it was a 5K and 10K world record on the roads because, he was running so fast through 5K that he broke the previous record, breaking the record that was just recently set about 6 weeks before by this Ugandan named Joshua Cheptegei. An interesting
Remember that name.
Fairly fast guy. He had recently won a 10K championship. So he was certainly notable, and he had broken that 10K road record in December of 2019. But Ronix Kipruto asserted clear dominance by re-breaking it and doing so handedly, well. And so that was January.
That was a good way to start the year. And that time was 26:24.
Very fast on the roads. So then come February. And of course, we certainly had the USA Olympic trials race. We'll get to that in a moment. But we had a return of this Joshua Cheptegei from Uganda, who now his 10K had just been broken, but he was reminding the world that he was still something by running a new 5K road record. So Ronix Kipruto set that record back in January. Joshua Cheptegei broke it again in 12:51 in February, running in Monaco near France there. So, of course, he had to remind everyone that he was here to stay. Of course, we know that story doesn't end there. More on that soon enough.
So now tell us about that half marathon for the women.
Also in the United Arab Emirates, let's see if I can get this right, of Ethiopia, Ababel Yashana devastated the women's half marathon world record previously set by Bridget Koske, a name that we should know in distance running after her 2:14 marathon time. So Yashana runs 1:04:31, a resounding 29 seconds off of the previous world record. And in that same race was Koske, who also broke the previous world record by 5 or 6 seconds, but didn't come away with the win. Crazy fast.
Yeah, so fast. So exciting. So that brings us to the USA
Andy,
team
tell
trials.
Tell us about the Olympic trials.
The Olympic trials were in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was a very, very hilly course. Now, even for those who do mountain marathons, we're saying that this is a hilly course, not that they're comparing it because it's not a mountain. So this was not a fast course, so it brought out the toughest and the most tactical and those that could hang on and really give it some guts. The first male finisher was Galen Rupp, as many of you know. Second was Jacob Riley, we had him on our predictions, but he was a little bit of an upset compared to some of the others who were listed on their way in. And then Abdi Amnaraman, who made his 5th Olympic team that day in February.
Wow. That was definitely an incredible men's race. I was a little bit more interested in the women's race myself, and not necessarily in who was winning it. Running back and forth and back and forth and back and forth through the city of Atlanta trying to cheer for Andi.
So the women's race, Alafine Tulimak, she ran an amazing race. Now, it was pretty clear that she was going to be the winner there in the end. She ran a very strong race. She runs for Hoka. Then Molly Siddell. You might have heard her name recently because she also ran at the London Marathon. And Sally Kipyego. And Sally was not too happy about the course. But that woman runs tough. She hangs in there. She's someone I really admire. I've seen her run in other U.S. championships, and she is one that can give you that grit. So there she came, showing on the day, full of toughness.
And that marked the qualifying teams for the USA for the Tokyo Olympics. Of course, we know that story is far from over, should have happened in the summer. But at the time, spirits were high. Because we had just named our first Olympic team qualifiers for USA track and field, and things were exciting. Then March happened. March of 2020, a month that few of us will forget, but certainly for many different reasons. Notably, that was when the NCAA, if any of you recall, Division I, to hold the indoor track and field championships, canceled the championships the day competition was scheduled to begin. So like athletes were warming up for races on the track when the cancellation was announced. What a blow. And certainly we've talked with some of those collegiate athletes, and it was heavy. It was hard to experience that. We understand why the decision was made, and probably in retrospect we understand even more clearly why such a decision needed to be made. But that marked kind of, in a sense, the beginning of a common theme. Which were the cancellations of events, which were significant postponements of things, and things just got really interesting from there in running. However, in Tokyo, they did still hold the elite-only marathon, and it was certainly a notable race, fast times, fast people running fast times, especially Israel's Ilona Korlima Chemtai Salpeter, who ran the new Israeli national record, as well as, what is it, the 5th fastest time ever in the women's marathon? Maybe it was 7th fastest.
I forgot about that.
2:17:45 for one of the 10 fastest marathon times ever.
Now, to give you perspective, like Dina Castor's time's 2:19.
Oh, yeah. These are fast times.
This is ridiculously fast. That's amazing. I didn't realize that.
Absolutely.
Glad you brought it up.
And then everything stopped.
April was a zero interest month.
Yeah, what were we doing in April? We were buying toilet paper or not buying toilet paper, depending on when we tried to buy toilet paper.
All the runners are going to their reserves and their race bags.
and certainly we were hearing all of the kind of the same rumblings of all my races have now been canceled. You know, all of our spring racing we were all planning on doing. What do I do now? Where am I going to go? How am I going to do with the training and such? And it was a hard time. But thankfully, we started to get glimmers of interesting things again come May. And I just simply want to hands down say Jakob Ingebrigtsen of Norway might have single-handedly kept the running spirit alive during the spring of 2020.
Well, maybe his brothers, too.
Well, the family may altogether have been a part of that.
I mean, they were pacing each other and whatnot.
They were. So that was when, in May of 2020, was when Jakob Ingebrigtsen, and basically in a duel against his brother, broke the Norwegian national 5K road record in a blazing fast. What did he run, like 13:28 or something? Insane time. Yeah, it is 13:28. Insane time for just basically running against his brother on a bike path. It was a race. There were other people there, like 7 of them. And he did that, and we all thought to ourselves, okay, there are people out there who are still doing this thing. And at the very least, we can watch them and live vicariously. Then June.
So
That's
you'll notice.
That's when
you hear us start chanting about our most said name on the podcast.
You think so? Most said name?
Mm-hmm. Kira D'Amato.
Kira D'Amato.
Yes, that's
Kira
when
D'Amato.
she...
In case it wasn't the most said name, I'm trying to ensure that it is. So, yes, that's when she what?
ran her time trial time of 15:04.
Solo, well, she had a pacer, but solo time trial on the track. And we just start to hear these waves. There's like started in Runner's World and such, and just kind of echoed throughout the running community of this Kira D'Amato and this really fast time trial. And could it have been real? And what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And we thought to ourselves, we got to talk to her.
And so we did.
Thankfully, she agreed before she was a really cool thing.
Oh, she was a really cool thing.
She was a really cool thing already.
Before it was highly targeted. I mean, it's now.
But she at least still returned our calls at the time.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Incredible things. And of course, Ingebrigtsen was going solid at the time as well. And so Kira kind of sparked some interest domestically, and Ingebrigtsen kept the international faith alive with running by running the 2,000-meter European record. So also a Norwegian record, but new European record in the 2,000 meters. At some, it was called the Impossible Meet or the Impossible Games.
I watched
something like
it.
that, in Oslo, Norway. And of course, it was basically just him and his brothers again, and a few other. There were some others. But to see him just go out there and 19 years old, crushing records, and we're all thinking, this is it. This is why we love running.
That was so good.
And then summer just kept getting better.
Yes. July. Thank you, Bowerman Track Club, because you were awesome streaming those meets and showing us some amazing track.
That was it. So Bowerman Track Club, with their slew of internationally profound athletes, decided to just basically run against each other and call it a meet because, you know, they're all world class. So it really is basically the same thing as any other meet, just with fewer total athletes. And it was amazing.
Yes. So I do want to mention that the world record went down that 4x1500 meter relay, and that was set by Colleen Quigley, Elise Cranny, Carissa Schweitzer, and Shelby Houlihan.
And that Shelby Houlihan name didn't end there. She also broke her own 5K American record, pushed on by Carissa Schweitzer, her teammate.
Yes.
And both of them running insanely fast. Houlihan taking the win by just a couple seconds in 14:23.
14:23.
A world-leading time at the moment when she ran it, and certainly one of the best times in the world in recent years.
So good. Mohamed of Canada ran a new Canadian record as part of Bowerman Track Club, and he ran 12:47 for that Canadian record.
And it should be noted the men's American record was not far off either, but they didn't quite get it. There were a couple of them who tried it. Lopez Lamong and Woody Kincaid all tried. You know, they tried and almost got it, but not quite.
Awesome. August. Monaco.
So the international competition started back up in August with some of these Diamond League races and such. And they basically decided, you know what? We're just going to put on a Diamond League series that usually takes like 4 months. And we're going to do it in like 6 weeks. And so we just got race after race after race. And they were all fast. And it was all the athletes from basically all over the world who had been training for the Olympics that didn't happen and were super fit and ready to go. And they proved it starting in Monaco. Starting with Joshua Cheptegei.
You've heard us say his name a couple times already on this episode.
So we knew he was fast. He was breaking world records on the road, which is not an easy thing to do, but some have called those records soft in the past. They certainly aren't anymore. But what he did in Monaco in the 5,000 meters on the track shocked many and impressed upon all of us the fact that he is exactly what he thought he was.
He's legendary.
12:35, 5,000 meters for a new world record time from a 16-year-old world record set by Kenenisa Bekele, the king of distance running, breaking it by 2 full seconds. Yeah.
And his pacer, correct me if I'm wrong, but his pacer did not stay with him for very long in that race. I think I recall that from watching it.
Can you blame him?
I know, but like he had to do that chasing the light. around the track. So for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, that was actually it's a fairly new development in recent years where they have a light where if someone's trying to chase a record,
Call it wave light technology.
Yeah.
Wave.
So they can see it at their feet on the inside of the inner lane on the track. So he was just chasing that light the whole time.
And that was it. So resoundingly, Joshua Cheptegei inserted himself as contention for greatest of all time, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not the end of the day. Certainly many, 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 many performances. Great things. But we do want to mention Jessica Hull of Australia. And we want to mention her because of a couple of things that will come up over the course of this narrative. And certainly it began that day in Monaco when she ran a new Australian national record in a time of 14:43. Blisteringly fast, but what she did not know at the moment was over the next 33 days, the lights were going to shine.
Mm-hmm. They'd be her lights that someone else might be chasing.
Okay.
She's creating those lights. So the Ingebrigtsen, he did it again. He's on fire with a 1,500-meter Norwegian record in 3:28.
His third national record of the 2020 season, and actually it was like fourth because there was an indoor thing in there that we didn't talk about. But so he continues the momentum and blazing fast. Wonderful to watch.
September, Zach, what happened in September?
So in September, these Diamond League races continue with all these fast times, and there was a 3,000-meter race in Rome that was especially notable because Jacob Ingebrigtsen back at it again, this time head-to-head with another Jacob Kiplimo of Uganda. Now, there's a name that many who were paying attention knew the name because he had run 12:48 in a 5K. But, when you run 12:48 in a 5K and your countryman runs 12:35, it doesn't stand out quite as much. However, in this 3,000 meters, Kiplimo head-to-head against Ingebrigtsen, the Battle of the Jacobs, as many were calling it. And Kiplimo did not disappoint. So now, despite the fact that Ingebrigtsen still finished with a new Norwegian national record of 7:27, Kiplimo took the win this time in 7:26, a new Ugandan national record. And it also should be noted, it set the tone for what was going to be an incredible fall from that young feller as well. And they were both young, by the way. That was another notable thing. They're both 19 at the time of the race.
But 2020, everyone kind of ages a lot.
Who knows what's going on there. But not only did the two of them run national records, third and fourth place also were national record times from Australia and from Italy as well.
Interesting stuff.
And then
Jessica Hull, back at it. Zach said we would mention her again. She ran a new 1,500-meter Australian record, and a week later, still in September, ran the 3,000-meter record.
So incredible. So Jessica Hull, in the matter of 33 days, broke 3 Australian national records to become the first Aussie woman ever to hold all 3 records.
Yeah.
What
I'd say she's pretty fast.
Good times. Now, she did also have a countryman break that 3,000-meter record as well. So Australia was kind of flying high during September. That was good times.
October.
Which brings us to October, and the momentum keeps growing.
Yes.
So then next up was London Marathon. And certainly there's a lot going on there. London did the elite only thing. They did like a lap race they called it the Dome, right? What do they call it? Because they kept everybody out. It was like only the COVID tested people were allowed to be there, and it was basically just all the elite runners.
Less than 2 miles, right? Less than 2 mile loops.
Just looping. And the
around
weather
and
was terrible.
It's
Maybe they
raining.
should have had a weather dome, not just a figurative dome. And of course, Sarah Hall.
Yeah, so there's no like fast times to be mentioned from top performers because
it wasn't like a world record day.
Fast.
No.
So we do want to mention Sarah Hall because she was not only an upset in this curated elite race. Some were saying it's like the most elite race that was ever put together.
It was basically all the who's who in international marathoning. All came together.
So Sarah ran by herself most of this race. And she ended up out sprinting Ruth
Kepnegedich, who was the 2019 World Marathon champion.
Yeah.
So for a
small thing.
second place finish in a World Marathon Majors after not making the U.S. Olympic team back in February, if you recall. So Sarah, frustrated by that February performance, came back strong in the fall.
And that was a personal best time for her at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
In London on that day, nonetheless. So it should be noted, too, because it was kind of like a heavy blow to some distance running enthusiasts, that was the same day that I just blanked on his name, the crazy world record marathoner. Help me out, Andy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The sub-2 marathoner. What is his name?
Eliud Kipchoge.
Okay, thank you. So you see, Zach is not impervious with these names. So Kipchoge took a solid defeat in that race after it was touted as this epic battle of the greats. One of the greats didn't show up because he was injured, and then Kipchoge had a tough day.
Yeah.
So
That's
that
what
was a
happens. The
bummer.
marathon's brutal to
It
everyone.
is an unforgiving mistress, as they say. So not only did October begin with the London Marathon and Zach forgetting important names, but also in Valencia, Spain, a location that we're going to hear a little bit about a number of times here. In Valencia, Spain, a track meet was held that was boldly named World Record Day. Was the name of the meet. Why?
Because it was.
Because it was. And it was supposed to be. And in the women's 5,000 meters, to begin, Letesenbet Gidey of Ethiopia running 14:06.
14:06. I watched this race, and this woman is smooth. She was under control the whole time, clipping along, quick cadence, and totally in control. I tell you, my mind just was like, how do you do this? How do you run that fast? But
because she built a robot to run for her.
she looked smoother than any robot ever would.
So incredible. So 14:06, that's 5 seconds off the previous world record, a long-standing world record at that, and in rare form. Incredible. But
rare, you mean beautiful form. Not
Yes.
rare. It is rare, but also beautiful.
Okay. So that only began the world record experience on the day, because later on, Joshua Cheptegei basically signed his certificate of greatest of all time by running a new 10,000 meter world record time of 26:11. Knocking off Kenenisa Bekele from the record books on the track. Who does that?
Only a goat.
In 1 year's time. So this marking in 10 months' time his 4th world record performance, if you include 2 on the roads, 2 on the track. And that was Joshua Cheptegei at his finest.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Absolutely. That was a really exciting one. I'll make sure that I link to some of these races that I had in previous episodes, because these are the kinds of things you want to watch. Like, how does a human move that quickly?
The answer
then
is
watch it.
there is no answer. But he did.
We're working on the answers to that, Zach, on the A to Z Running Podcast.
And October wasn't done yet, because then the World Half Marathon Championships in Poland happened. And here we get some names that these are the kinds of people that you've been kind of starting to hear rumbles about, but hadn't yet kind of proven their mettle completely. And names like Jacob Kiplimo, which we mentioned that 3,000 meter. Now he jumps up in distance to half marathon. And then Kibiwott Candy of Kenya, who is another young guy who's run some fast times on the track. And these guys start towing the line against Joshua Cheptegei in a half marathon. It was, by the way, his debut as well in the half marathon. And so you've got great names everywhere, young guys and established guys, and everyone thinks Joshua Cheptegei is going to just crush it and win this race in a world record. Well, apparently Jacob Kiplimo was done running in the shadow of his countrymen because he pulled off the upset win at 19, or maybe he was 20 by the time. I think he was still 19 years old, running an incredible 58:40 something to win the World Half Marathon Championships over Kenya's Kibiwott Candy in a close second. And that duel between those two is going to come back. We're not done with that.
Zach, it hurts him when he hears how close it is at the end of these races.
It's incredible. And sprint finishes over these half marathons.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a good day for the men, but it was also a good day for the women.
Yes. So the story of the day really was Perez Chepchirchir. She ran 1:05.16.
1:05.16. New women's only world record.
Yeah. That's so fast, everyone. I mean, I keep saying that over and over because it is a whole episode of super freaky fast times.
And we didn't mention it earlier because she was going to do it again. She broke that women's only world record earlier in the fall as well, like 4 weeks before, not very long, and broke it then again by like 18 seconds. So she's in good form. We're going to hear that name again as well, not too long in the future.
So overall, there were 21 national records that went down that day.
Whoa.
Yeah.
In one day.
So it was 9 women's records and 12 men's records.
And this is the 2020 we remember. So then in November, things continue. But we want to actually jump back domestically for a moment, get out of these international races for a second, because the thing that was perhaps one of the most exciting things for us of the fall of 2020 was Kira D'Amato proving to all the doubters that may have still been out there that 15:04 solo on the track was not a fluke.
It was not, because in a race that she designed for this opportunity, Kira ran in the Updog 10-miler, an American record. Women's only.
51:23.
Yeah.
American record 10-mile time.
Yep.
Blazing.
And from what I recollect, she separated from the group at like less than 2 miles into the race.
Half a mile into the race.
It just said that she pulled away right away. So she did that effort just
by herself.
Pure
no pacers.
grit.
Just her.
Amazing lady.
That was it. So Kira is on our minds. But in New Delhi, there was another outstanding international performance. We've been talking about women's half marathoning for quite a bit here in 2020. Well, Yalamzurf Yehwala of Ethiopia also ran an incredible half marathon time. And of course, she was gunning for the world record. Narrowly missed it, running the second all-time half marathon performance of 1:04.46.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that was a really fast day as well. Like there was an Indian record that went down.
There was a lot of good stuff going on there.
Yeah, there's some good stuff.
We don't have the time to talk about all the good stuff in all of these moments, but there was so much good. So then, December. All right. Well, back again in Valencia. And I should probably just say at this point in time that if you ever have the chance to go to Valencia, Spain, you should probably put on some running shoes and just run down a street at some point, because you're likely to run a world-class performance if you do.
Oh, yeah.
Basically,
Really?
that's what happens every time there's a race in Valencia, Spain, it would seem. Because back in Valencia, again, at the Valencia Marathon and Half Marathon, they were dropping diamonds.
Ooh,
all right.
Good one.
So we got to start with the marathon because it was fast. And we've been talking about Perez Chepchirchir with her half marathon performances. She sealed the deal. This time in the full marathon, running 2:17 and change for the 5th fastest all-time marathon.
Is that a debut for her?
I don't think so. But it was a 6-minute PR.
What? 6 minutes.
That's something.
I'm a lot slower, and I'd take a 6-minute PR.
I think anyone should take
Yes,
a 6-minute PR.
Mm-hmm.
But then, in the men's half marathon. So you heard us talking about Kiplimo and Kibiwat Candy earlier. Well, they go head-to-head again. And this time, they weren't solo, by the way. They had a lot of people chasing with them. And this half marathon is one of these scenarios where basically every 5K split, people are like, that was close to the world record for that distance. And then another 5K split, oh, it was close to the world record for that distance. And you start to get to the feeling that they're probably going to run a world record half marathon. Not only did the winning time break the world record, the first 4 finishers all broke the previous world record in the half marathon.
That is just unreal.
This time, Kibiwat Candy takes the late surge. So, in fact, it was Jacob Kiplimo who put the hurt on late in the race, and it looked like he was going to take it. and Candy came back and sealed the deal for a 57:31 half marathon performance, 29 seconds off the previous world record, and beating Kiplimo by just a bit of 6 seconds.
Wow. Another fun one to watch, the kick. I watched a lot of these races. That was pretty glued.
So while Kiplimo didn't get that world record, he did still get another Ugandan national record, his own in that instance as well.
Wow. Such great stuff.
I got to take a breath.
Yeah. So
Because we're not done.
No, we're not done. Are we talking about the U.S. now?
Yes.
All right.
Back in the United States.
Back in the United States, the Marathon Project. So grateful that this happened on U.S. soil and with such phenomenal athletes. Again, this was small. I mean, there were less than 50 men, less than 50 women participating in this race. Of course, high standards. The marks were, I think, even faster than Olympic trial qualifying standards from what I looked at it on the list. So this is a highly elite
Cost
event.
of entry is high.
Sarah Hall coming back with a vengeance yet again, running the second fastest time in U.S. history.
And what was that time, Andy?
2:20:32. And that's behind Dina Castor, who is legendary.
The legend herself. Yeah. So with all these international performances going on everywhere, you got to wonder if the Americans were sitting there just like antsy for this Marathon Project race because they're like, we're going to do it. This is how 2020 goes. We run fast. And Sarah Hall, from the gun, was clearly asserting her intent in that race.
And she will come back for that U.S. record. I believe it. She's not. She's not done. And however, it was not a surprise that she won that race. Right? Everyone knows that Sarah Hall has had a tremendous year. This second place person might have been a little bit of surprise.
What's that name again? What's that name again?
Kira D'Amato.
Kira D'Amato.
Second place with an 11-minute PR in the marathon distance.
So we should pause for a second and reflect on the fact that back in June, when she ran 15:04 on the track, that was a major performance for her.
Major, yeah.
You've got to wonder, at that moment, some kind of fire lit. And basically, Kira, in her mind, was a different Kira. But over the course of 2020, she hadn't had very many opportunities to prove to the rest of us that that was true. But steadily and slowly marching through instances throughout, and then she gets to the marathon, and it's just one more chance to seal the deal permanently. And she did so, running 2:22:56.
World-class time.
So that's what, 7th all-time on the U.S. list. Insane performance, 11-minute PR. What more can you say?
What more can you say? Except for that you'll remember her name because we say it so much.
Now, in the men's race, things weren't too shabby either, as Martin Hare and Noah Droddy were essentially shuffling about the men's top 10 all-time list for the U.S. Martin Hare won the race in 2:08:59. Good for 7th all-time. Noah Droddy, not too shabby, 10 seconds behind in 2:09:09, running 9th all-time. This is putting these guys with the likes of Abdi, Meb. Like, this is solid stuff.
I saw something recently that he's now Noah Droddy is the fastest runner from Indiana.
The fastest marathoner from Indiana ever, which I don't want to comment about Indiana, so I'm just going to stop there.
Hey, they got a lot of great runners.
I didn't say anything about Indiana not having great runners. They also have a lot of cows.
And a lot of great roads to run on.
And straight roads that go on for miles and miles and
Absolutely.
miles.
Sounds like a great place to run.
I did live there for a time, which is where these memories are coming from. Now, despite all that 2020 threw at us, and we know it's a year that few of us will forget, the very best of our sport kept the faith, kept the drive, and reminded us why we love running so much.
So there were dozens of national records that fell.
Dozens.
Like we could,
Tens
it would be
of dozens.
inaccurate. Like if we were to count them all up, we probably would miss some still.
Absolutely would miss some because too many were being broken.
Exactly. It was phenomenal. And then 8 world records between the roads and the track.
8 or 9, because I've realized that I may have miscounted one too. at least 8 or 9 world records on the roads and the track in 1 year. That is the 2020 we remember.
Now, not many civilians, so to speak,
Civilians?
or average
What does
people,
that mean?
more average people were able to race very much besides virtual racing. And there were some of you I did see that had phenomenal virtual races or time trials that you did. Congratulations to all of you. Now, there's some people that took a different kind of challenge, and it made for some interesting news. So right now, I'm going to go through some of the Guinness Book of World Records that went down for 2020.
Running-related records.
And I do think that these will be difficult for those in the future to break, because these runners were like really fast and probably would have been racing or like targeting other events, but because they didn't have opportunity, they created their own.
I think this answers the question of what do fast runners do when they get bored? They juggle, dribble basketballs.
It's actually called joggling.
Run backwards. Wait, joggling?
Joggling is a term.
There's a name for it. That's problematic.
The act of juggling while running. And there were a couple of extremely impressive records broken in this discipline of joggling.
Joggling.
The first was run by Michel Lucien Berrigon, who set a blazing fast 5K record of 16:50 while juggling.
Wait, what?
Folks, 16:50 while juggling.
I want to know
balls.
how you define juggling now. So she had 3 balls in the air.
Yes.
He had 3 balls in the air while running 16:50?
Yes. This was his third attempt of breaking this mark, which joined his 10K and his half marathon joggling world records.
Wow. He's a joggler extraordinaire.
He can run faster in the 5K than I can.
I don't think we should
juggling.
continue down that path.
No, we should
that
not.
That path doesn't end in great places.
And then this
self-esteem.
one I didn't hear about, and that's the Handcuff mile world record.
So, running away from the cops, right?
I guess that's what
we're
he's
talking about here.
practicing
This
for.
world record must have been set because people were running away from the cops.
This was set in April.
Why
so
else
we
are you
didn't have
getting
anything
handcuffed
going on in
and
April.
going running?
Remember we said there was nothing in April? Well, this happened in April. And this was NCAA Division I runner Jeremy Greenwald. And
Nice.
the time to beat for the Handcuff mile was 6:37. And he ended up running 4:52 in handcuffs.
Okay, but he had a head start. He's a 4-minute miler.
He ran 4:01 in the mile.
Yeah.
That's his PR.
All right.
But he ran 4:52 in handcuffs. Can you imagine how sore your upper thoracic would be after
I also want to
running in
know if he
handcuffs?
passed or failed the breathalyzer before he took off running.
Oh,
Because clearly the
goodness.
cops aren't going to catch him, and he knows that. Handcuffs or not.
I think the biggest feat of the whole thing was not falling on your face.
Perhaps.
Not falling down.
You don't
He
want to
must have
trip
decent
when your hands
balance.
are literally tied behind your back. Oh, he can say that now. I could beat you with my hands tied behind my back.
Snap.
Ouch.
That is a good one. The next one is the Blue Jean Mile, which we did report on in May. Johnny Gregorick.
You got to watch it. Johnny Gregorick, you got to watch it. It's just awesome.
It is awesome.
Watching someone run that fast in blue jeans.
So he's an American. He ran. He's a 3:52 miler. So he's a very fast.
He is not slow.
Yeah, very very world class type of runner, and he was denim clad from the waist down, and he ran a 4:06.25 mile.
Yep.
Which beats the previous time of 4:11, which was also a really fast time.
I hope he was sponsored by Ruby Lube before he did that one.
Yeah, or Levi jeans.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But he did raise money, $32,000 for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and that was in honor of his brother. So wonderful, very cool feat for him to have accomplished and for a cause.
Now, if it was a backward year, is it fair to say it's worth at least doing some amount of backward running?
Well, that is very good for you. I don't know if going this fast is something that we should do on the regular, but Aaron Yoder ran backwards,
For a
beating his
mile.
own backward mile world record in a time of 5:30.
Okay.
He lowered it 21 seconds from his previous attempt.
Yeah, why not? Because, some people can run fast forwards. But what's the experience like? What's the experience like for a guy running backwards to pass you?
So I guess that he actually did it was part of the virtual NYRR Fifth Avenue Mile.
The New York Roadrunners.
Yeah.
Fifth Avenue. Yeah.
So it's like, even
It's a
though it's
big deal.
virtual, it's not like official, but like it probably gave him a lot of attention for doing that, because it's like, who's this guy? Oh wait, he was running backwards. Like, wow.
Okay.
And then there is the basketball mile world records, which they kind of went back and forth during that time.
Yeah,
A few people thought they would do
competition going on
some
there.
dribbling. So the most recent record holder in the event is 16-year-old Tennessee Tremaine. And she was the gold medalist in her division in the 3K. And she lowered the record to 4:33. Wait. What?
No.
Oh, that's the men's side. Sorry, Tennessee. But that's still really fast. A 16-year-old going 4:33 without dribbling a basketball is still impressive.
That kid got skills.
Yes. That's amazing.
What was especially amazing were all the through the legs and around the backs that he was
Did
doing.
he do some of that?
No.
I don't think so. So then the U.S. Junior Cross Country National Champion Sydney Mascarelli lowered the women's record to 5:08.
Oh.
But it has since been beaten by BYU runner Whitney Orton. And she ran in September a 4:58. She ran under 5 minutes.
While dribbling a basketball.
Does
it count dribbling a basketball to throw it ahead of you 100 feet and then just run and catch up to it and then grab it and throw it ahead of you?
I think it has to stay
How
in
are we
your
defining
lane.
dribbling here? Stay in your lane. Wow. All right.
I don't know. I just am saying that.
So
I don't know
in case you didn't find the world records and national records all over the place going down interesting enough, at least those of us who got too bored with regular running found ways to occupy our time. Well, considering the amount of inspiration and encouragement that we all could receive through the various performances on the year, we also wanted to just reflect for a moment on the content that we were trying to share with all of you in 2020. Certainly, most notably with the hard-hitting topics supported by incredible guests that we were trying to bring forward.
We're so grateful that we have had Olympians and experts and phenomenal runners in different kinds of capacities coming on our show. So we are extremely grateful for every single one of them. And we're only going to get to mention a few right now. I wish we could talk about all of them, but we have the podcast, so go back and listen to them.
We wouldn't do that to you since you've already... No, but if you haven't had a chance to listen to some of these, it's worth at least mentioning what are the episodes that you, our audience, found the most compelling, and what's the content that you found the need to come back to repeatedly over time.
Yeah.
We're going to share both of those.
So Unfinished Business with Kira D'Amato. Now that one, a lot of you were excited to hear about because it was that spark of hope in a dark time. And Kira is someone who is very open, relatable. She's funny. Like, she has jokes on her run. So she is someone who has really inspired us, but also with her feet. So like, she is good at like giving encouragement and inspiration, but also lets the feet do the talking.
We were also privileged to be able to speak with Dathan Ritzenheim for a second time on the podcast, this time bringing him on as he was in a transition, moving into a new role coaching the On Athletics Club, which is an exciting business, and they certainly have accomplished much since that tenure began only recently.
Definitely.
But we had a chance to talk to Dathan about what is this running experience beyond just what was called beyond the numbers. So beyond just what we do as runners in terms of the times that we run, who we are, though, as runners. And we got to delve deep. It was a great conversation.
Yeah. So not only was he like a former 5K record holder and Olympian times
world
3.
bronze medalist in the half marathon.
Yeah. He's more than that. And the experience was more than that. So it was great to hear him dig into that topic.
And then certainly one of the more recent compelling episodes was when we had a chance to talk with Kate Grace, sub 2 800-meter runner on the Bowerman Track Club currently, and really just a fascinating conversation about what training is like, about what motivates some of the things that we're doing in training, developing speed and strength, and where does endurance fit with all of that. Great stuff.
Yeah, I loved listening how she was a student of the sport. She continues to be, even at that level. So we can all be students of the sport if Kate Grace can be a student of the sport.
Absolutely. So just for a moment, let's also just touch on what was the content that we were sharing that many of you found the need, or at least the desire, to go back to repeatedly. Because we find with these kinds of things especially, we go to varying degrees of depth into some of this. We bring in the science at times. We certainly bring in the experts. We try to bring in practical application and all of that. And every once in a while, we've tried to combine all of those things into one episode, and it's difficult to do, and so they tend to be jam-packed.
Yeah.
Some of those episodes that you found to need repeated listens included our aerobic conditioning deep dive. This was way back early in the summer of 2020 when we were talking about aerobic conditioning and how you develop it and why that's a high priority, if not the highest priority for distance runners to work on. And we brought in some science. We brought in some examples. That's a great listen. Certainly one to go back to if it's been a while.
Definitely. So another one is the art of strength. Is that what it was called?
Something like
that.
that.
Art and science of strength with Caitlin Russo. Now, she talked about specifically some things that you can do for functional movement and strengthening different areas. Very practical episode. So that was a good one. I think that's a good one to go back to too.
And to really take the topic home, later on we brought on Phil Wharton, an expert in the running world on mobility. He's actually the founder of the method called active isolated flexibility and has worked with like all the who's who's.
Oh yeah,
like this
he's
guy
talking about Meb,
has been
like he's
everywhere.
buddies with Meb.
Right?
What?
So we had the privilege of bringing him on to talk about why is this mobility thing important and how can we do it best? And he answered that question well. You've got to listen to that one again.
And then nutrition with Megan Featherston. That was a very recent episode, but many of you have reached out to us and told us how much you learned from that episode, how much I learned, how much Zach learned. So that was a really great one too. So those were more sciencey, lots of learning that happened in those episodes. And I think that's why we had so many repeat listens to those.
Well, you know that Zach likes to eat bacon, egg, and cheese bagels before his races. That's the McDonald's breakfast sandwich, in case anyone's keeping track. And I had the opportunity to talk with a sports nutritionist about that little habit of mine. So if you didn't listen to that one, and certainly any of the above. Now, what we try to do is we try to help runners thrive. And to accomplish that best, we bring in a smattering of the experts. We bring in the science. We bring in essential practical application. What does a day in the life look like? And all of that content is bettered always by your input and your feedback. Ask us the questions that are on your mind. Share comments in our material and our social medias anywhere and everywhere. And we take those things and we develop content based off of that input.
Absolutely. So please join us in thriving in another year in 2021. Thank you for joining us in 2020.
We have so much great content already in the what is it, the boiler, the brewer, the thing that makes content, and it's making it in high capacity volumes.
Yeah, and we're really excited because we have some great guests that we've already interviewed that we have yet to share those episodes, but we also have some in the works that are scheduled, and we have the Olympics coming up this year, and we want you to be ready to enjoy the Olympics as much as possible by following the happenings, the trials, and what is coming up for the games.
So how can we help you make 2021 the best year ever for your running and thriving? Certainly follow, subscribe, get the content as it comes out, and engage with us in that way. But we also offer the coaching services, and we've been working with many athletes to help achieve those goals, and looking forward to bigger and better opportunities with more racing, with more competing, and certainly supporting you.
And on that note, thank you again, and we'll talk to you in 2021.